All
Yeah.
right. Well, it is 6 Eastern time. I'll wait until it clicks over to the 1. I like to be as timely as possible. We had a bunch of people early and on time, and I want to reward y'all versus not those that, come in a little late. I'll give a quick story on that, and then I'm going to jump in. Back when I did event marketing, this is mid 20s age. One of my bosses, we were doing but like long days, like 10, 15 hour days. And my good friend Charlie and I are in the vehicle with him 15 minutes before we had to leave, and he is just cussing up a storm waiting on the other guy. And this is like 6 something in the morning, and just, I mean, I was scared. This is like 4 days into working for this guy, and he is just cussing with more cuss words than I probably heard as a teenager. And I got so scared, and then he fired the guy like a few days later because the guy was like 3 minutes late, and he's just like, "If you're not 15 minutes early, you're late." And that stuck with me, and what a gift he gave me, because now as an adulthood, I just found you just show up on time or early, you're ahead of 90% of the people, and you look great. So, all right, that's done with the chatter. I appreciate you being here. Your time's valuable, especially in the evening, getting ready for family stuff. And I just want to share my journey. I've shared a lot of it before, but I've had a lot of people not know all the details or where I'm at now, or do I still buy mobile home? I've had lots of questions, so I said, let me just jump on, share my journey. I believe there's something in here for newer investors and something for seasoned investors and everywhere in between. Because not also everyone realizes it's been over 20 years. I think it's been 22 and a half years-ish that I've been real estate investor. Uh, I didn't start yesterday. It's been a long journey. We're gonna go through part of that, the wins, the losses, the reason I eventually fired banks and got where I deal with humans only. Honestly, I didn't even realize how long it had been until I started prepping for this. I thought it was a little bit shorter than the time span. So we're going to touch on that. I will answer questions. Let's save those to the end. A lot of times, a lot of you have heard me speak. I like to have it more conversational, but with this, I decided let's just get through my story and everything, and then we'll fill in with questions at the very end. So, and again, everyone can see my screen, right? I asked them multiple times. You don't know how many times I've continued, and no one told me for minutes. Uh, click here. All right, so 20 years ago, I did not know not to trust the banks. I trusted them, and today I have decided to trust my community more than the banks themselves. In 2008, I realized banks are really only fair weather friends. When the economy shifts, things aren't looking great. They look out for themselves. They don't look out for investors and trying to loan their money out. They really look for themselves. And uh, I decided I'd rather be in business with people than banks. Now, let me put one thing out there ahead of time. I am not saying that I don't have a bank account. I do have a bank account. I did have one or two people get a little confused on that. I'm not like that anti-bank. I mean, the only money I owe to someone is a human being, not a bank, an institution. So I owe money to friends and family. I do have bank accounts. I have lots of those. Um, so yeah, so now it's friends and family, not banks. Why banks aren't the answer in 2026, more than even the last decade or so. Again, they're like fair weather friends. Banks tend to lend when you're doing great, you really don't need their money, your things are flush, the economy, and then they vanish when markets get tough. If you don't believe me, I know there's a lot of people that have not been through times like right now where things are a little rocky because we've been, what, straight up for 10, 13 years plus. And a lot of people haven't been in the time that banks get stingy and they only give people money to the people that don't need the money. Um, Banks, they're more transactional than relational, I have found. So, they look at your FICO score and a community partner looks at you, the person. Like, what are you doing? Yes, I do believe you should be lending to people that you trust them. You would maybe do a handshake deal, but you have everything in paperwork. I no ever recommend not having the right paperwork, the right collateral. So there's two pieces of it. The bank only looks at the collateral. They don't look at the person that much. They look at the FICO score. It's more of a robotic turn there. And the hiking of rates, the tightening of terms, they're deal killers. We keep hearing this back and forth. Oh, banks have dropped the rates again. We can buy, and then they raise them again. I mean, right now it's that back and forth. I just got an email today that one of my savings accounts dropped the rate again. They're always real quiet when they drop it, and then they're real loud when they raise it. For the savings account side, but that goes with our borrowing rates as well because usually they're dropping it at the same speed that they're moving the borrowing rates. And then they really don't have a vision for what you're really doing. If for some reason you don't know, I'm mainly in mobile home business. So the mobile homes with land and banks don't see so much of that. They see the now, what not the long term, the blue collar housing value. They don't. I haven't seen it. They see that. They just look at these numbers and don't have that vision for what you're really doing. When we're starting out, I know myself and then everyone I've helped along their journeys, you basically either have time or money. We're always in back and forth of that. Do we have time, more time, or do we have more money? And when we have more time than money, it's more of that high hustle time, working 80, 90 hours a week for the growth. You're dealing with all of the three T's for the tenants, toilets, termites. Maybe you're flipping, wholesaling, managing. You're doing everything all together because you don't have the money yet to pay for the systems or just to switch over to the low time, high capital, where you're putting your money to work. Your money's working more than you're working. You want the returns, but not the job that comes with it, and just valuing the transparency, the integrity over like the hype, the was it the whole hustle culture is what I'm hearing that term a lot right now. And don't get me wrong, there's time that not all of us have money when we start out, and you gotta kind of go through that hustle time. I did it. I do encourage you to transition out of the hustle time so you can be with family and friends. I know that's what a lot of us are really doing this for. So it's really you have one of the two, and I think throughout our journey, sometimes we switch back and forth of which one do we have more of. And I know some people they start out and they're in a high paying job and they just skip the hustle time and they go right into I just want my money to work for me so I don't have to work as many hours. Uh, yeah, I think I just said it, but like I always think of it, and one of my good friends, Dave Garcia, he's always saying it. Somebody's got to work. It's either me or my money, and I would rather my money be working than me. So it's always looking like that, and it can be small dollars or big dollars. You don't always have to have huge amounts of money to have it out there working. You can start smaller and then grow it from there. Yeah. Now, don't look at me weird, but I like being a landlord. I know a lot of people don't. Um, I oddly enjoy being a landlord. I have built systems and built a team now that deals with a lot of the day to day, but I do enjoy, I enjoy going over a lease. We have another lease review tomorrow. I know a lot of people think that that's crazy and they don't like it, but that's a part of the job I really enjoy. I haven't even figured out why I enjoy it so much, but that's probably the biggest piece involved in the day-to-day management, and then it's kind of solving the weird problems that come up and okaying things. So you can move from that hustle time to having more capital running a business that happens to be in real estate, which is a lot of what I've done. And I'll give some quick facts about 2026 affordable housing opportunity. Uh, According to here, let me see. I know someone's gonna question me on where I got these from. National Low Income Housing Coalition is where I got a lot of these stats from. There's 7 million units we need for demand for the low income. That's a 20-year high. I know my buddy Jeff Flynn is on here, and he probably has even tighter stats than I do on this because he's a numbers guy and a mobile home park guy. So, and we're in the affordable housing. Yes, it happens to be mobile homes. There are some affordable housing that is not just a mobile home. The affordable housing is at an all-time, I don't know, sorry, I don't know all-time high. A 20-year high is the statistics I found. In the mobile homes, affordable housing, I mean, we are 2 to 3 times higher yield than your standard single family, your multifamily. Of course, these are general big statistics. Not, I'm sure everyone can find a little nitty-gritty here and here that contradict each other. But I have found that's why you're going to see I sold off all my uh, concrete, structured, built on site single family homes to buy mobile homes is because of this. And then the recession proof or recession resistant. If you haven't studied any recessions, a lot of times what happens is everyone starts moving down a class of where they're staying. So here's the example I like to give is uh, I read on the internet, so of course it's got to be true. It's $200 to $300 extra a two household income has a month. So let's just go with $200. Even if you went for $400, you overshot it. They have $400 extra a month. Well, if one of them loses a job, which in a recession, a lot of people lose their jobs. Now, I personally kind of think we're in a recession now. We'll find out months from now or years from now if they don't keep changing the definition of a recession is, if we are in one. So when we have a two household income, one loses their job, they only have $400 extra. They're probably gonna have to go down a rent level. And it keeps happening until that affordable housing. We're like the bottom of the pyramid of housing there. Well, we already have huge demand that I just mentioned. We're under by 7 million units. So simple supply and demand means we are going to have the possibility of raising our rents. That's not where I'm looking at. I'm looking at the fact that we will have more demand. We could pick a highest possible person qualified for the property, and we can go without losing our vacancy or having vacant properties. This is huge for me because if we have vacancies and we're in the rental business, we're not making money. That's when we start losing money. And I have already personally felt it. We do have some stuff that's above the affordable housing rate. And we've already seen that drop by a few $100s. It actually turned pretty quick in Central Florida already. Um, Luckily, I ran my numbers very conservatively. And then, because I'm in mastermind groups, I run them. So I get a little bit of a pulse around the country. And not all of the country, but a lot of the country we're hearing very similar. There still are pockets that have not been affected or they're even still going up on their rents. So the affordable housing is recession resistant because we get more people moving back down there. You know, maybe the let's just go with a little more extreme. An attorney, you can't imagine maybe them living in a mobile home, quote unquote, but maybe they have to live in one for a while. And because they want to, but they have to because of the way rents are. You know, I've had a underwriter in the last recession. I had an underwriter renting from me. And I'm thinking to myself, like, you probably have a really good job. You're underwriting mortgages. and he saw it quick, and he said he wanted to cut his expenses as low as he could, so that because he felt it. He has a had a bigger pulse on the market. So those are some of the big reasons I believe in 2026 and going forward here for a bit, the affordable housing is a huge opportunity. So my investing timeline, I shortened this up. Some of y'all saw that bigger like snake version I made that had a lot more details. Kind of broke it up into four um, time periods. My foundation time, um, when I started in December 2002, purchased my first house. I did what is now called a house hacking. I'll show you a picture of that property then. I didn't know it was called house hacking. I just needed a place to live, and rent it out to my rooms. Then I purchased my first rental property, and learning the ropes, learning rehab. I did everything on my own. I didn't have any education. I had never heard of communities and REIA groups. I was just listening to the banks and doing stuff. And 7 years, 7, 8 years, you might see that as a long period of that. Um, I I wasn't serious yet. How about that? And so it was more that steady there, figuring myself out. Then we came into the pivot, the learning lessons, the market crash lesson. I did give up that second house I gave it up as a short sale. I tried to work with the bank. They didn't want to work with me. They said, stop making your payments and then we'll talk to you about it. I ended up selling that house. I'll show you some of the numbers, but I think it's like 47% uh, drop in value. I kind of bought it at the top and sold it at the bottom. I have some actual numbers on that I'll show you. Final My final bank property, bank finance property. I didn't realize that was back in about 2015. I didn't realize it had been that long since I had gotten my last bank financed. And then that's when I got into wholesaling some. I shifted and learned a little bit more about creative financing. I started getting educated. Things started shifting then. And then in 2016, that's when the real breakthrough happened. I got into communities, mastermind groups, really got focused, decided to get serious. And that's when I wholesaled my first mobile home. I saw the money being made in them. And I essentially then didn't look back. I got very serious. I got very niche down and ran with it and decided I am making this my business. And again, I was in some communities that were my support, so that whenever I got shiny object or I wasn't really sure and I started second guessing myself, those hard days. That is also when I hit financial freedom. I became a millionaire net worth, and I say, kind of put those little air quotes because it feels good, it pumps up the ego, but net worth has some important parts to it, but cash flow is really what feeds you. I know people that had multi-million dollars in net worth and ended up going bankrupt because they couldn't, they were over leveraged on their payments side, not their net worth side. Because remember, when things get rough, the banks pause and they don't refinance. And I have friends again lost millions in net worth because they couldn't refinance, and that was a plan, and the banks had stopped. Heck, I just had that friend almost lost a $7 million of net worth during COVID when New York State did all the freezing, and they still had to pay out their mortgages. I mean, 7 million of net worth and almost lost it because they had to make their monthly payment to the banks, and their tenants didn't have to make the payments. All right, back to my timeline here. 2020. So I started really getting into more, we'll say, the creative side. Did my first master lease, subject to, I started solving problems, not just buying properties. And really since 2001, that's when really started speaking outside of my little area, became a national speaker, wrote my book, then I founded Elite Level Mastermind with my friend Dave Garcia, and I started Inside Lifestyle REI. And all of that is, the legacy, the give back. So many of my mentors have helped me. And I feel like if I'm not one to keep passing that on, well, then the knowledge dies. And, I was helped, so I want to be able to help others along a lot of my friends that are out there and helping as well. Don't get me wrong, I'm still buying properties. Bought one last year. We've come close this year on a few. Just couldn't get the terms. Actually, the last one, I told them you need to sell it on the MLS. You're gonna get more money than I can pay you. I really do believe in helping the people do what's best for them. So I am still buying as well. My vision statement here, this is a very condensed vision statement. I have a multi-page life vision, business visions. I can and do talk for hours on the topic of vision. It's a lot of what I push back and poke at in the rooms I'm in because that I believe drives where we're actually going. And, everyone here it would be a different piece of advice for a question for every single person here because everyone here has a different goal. So we need to give advice and help people and help our friends for their goals, not our own goals. Overall, I'm going to make up the statistics around 70% of people really want the same thing, just because I know this from polling people at all the RIAs and stages I've spoken on. It's really wanting the freedom to be where we want, when we want, with who we want. That is what I have been after, and I mean, for the most part, achieve it. Always, we want a little bit more. But that usually summarizes a lot of people's stuff, and so money helps us get there. I'm not just building wealth. I believe I'm building like a chain of freedom for my family, my friends, the rooms I'm in. Uh, so house hack. Back to my journey here. This is my first house I bought. Um, I mentioned we were terrible tenants. Um, I mean, when I say terrible tenants, 19, 20-year-old Adrian and his friends, and we did not drink at this time. We had parties like spaghetti wrestling parties, mud wrestling, pudding wrestling, parking a motorcycle in the living room. I mean, all kinds of wild stuff that now I'm just like, yeah, I don't know why they put up with us as long as they did. After we were getting evicted again, uh, my family member that was a mortgage broker, he basically said, "Hey, why don't you buy a house?" So I bought a house, this house right here, you see. I moved all my friends in, um, and they paid my mortgage. I decided what their rent was based on my mortgage divided by four because there was four other rooms. I didn't know about pulling market rents and everything, and it was enough where they could pay for them. And then eventually they would move out, and I actually had learned, oh, you can look up what rents are, and started moving the rents up to where I was getting paid to live there. Fast forward the few years. Oh, by the way, this is back when like the signature loans, like all that real dangerous stuff, which I'm starting to see a little bit of it in the bank world right now again, like no doc loans. Um, I bought this house, I think, with $1,500 out of my pocket. They rolled all the closing costs, all the fees and everything into the mortgage, which is smart on them's part. They're making interest on it, and they were just reselling the loan anyways. But yeah, $1,500 at 20 years old is what it costs to get into a house. It was wild, which I don't believe is actually a very good, safe thing for the economy in general. So I mentioned already, I bought a second house. So here, I bought it 10/10/2005. That's whenever I bought the second one. I had the adjustable rate mortgage. I was losing 200-ish dollars a month. And it's okay. You'll refinance in a few years. That's what the banks told me. Well, a few years came along and I couldn't refinance. And I went from losing a little bit to a little bit more every month. My payment kept going up. I didn't understand why that was happening. Now I understand the adjustable rate mortgage world. But it was happening the exact opposite that I ignorantly thought it would happen. And then my ego got a hold of me and said, I was advised to sell and cut my losses then. My ego got a hold of me and said, no, 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 I'm not wrong. I'm not wrong. And held. And then the pain got too great. As you can see, by December 23rd, 2009. So it was way before that, is whenever I really decided, all right, I'm going to let this thing go. So almost the bottom. I timed the market exactly opposite there. I did give it up as a short sale, compromised my integrity, and that has always stayed in the back of my mind. Luckily, I did not like leave real estate. I had that first house I was living in for free. And through a lot of this time, I was eating not ramen noodles, but the Lipton noodle packets and tuna. I could afford the dollar packet, not the 37-cent packet. I was eating them about $5 a day on because I lost my job for a lot of that as well. But I stuck with it because that house was still there and I still lived for free. And I kept seeing other people in real estate. Eventually, I did it. Like I said, I joined some communities. I bought a few between these two spots. I bought a few, what I call site-built houses, like the concrete structured houses, and bought my first mobile home. Encouraged by one of the masterminds I was in. I was at that time I was feeling frustrated and concerned with rates and scared of like not finding good deals. Obviously, I was wrong of where we were at in the economy, but that's what pushed me to mobile homes, and it fixed my frustration because the returns were amazing. Um, I got more educated on mobile homes, and I started selling off all of my single family houses for mobile homes. I've done 0% finance deals. I bought both of these. So my first 0% deal was actually two deals. I bought both of these at 0% finance, $1,000 down, $100 a month until paid. Uh, those numbers don't always work, but it was also at like a cash price. Obviously, they needed a lot of work. But we were able to get them turned around and rented. Actually, the one on the right is even as a seller finance deal. We actually fixed even the one on the left. It looks really bad. But that's one of those you're judging a book by its cover. We were able to fix the inside. Learned lots of lessons there. I've done multiple other 0% finance deals since then. Um, is so powerful when you're getting 0%. I mean, just inflation alone, you're making money on it. And this was an experienced investor that sold them to us at 0% finance. He was just burned out and done with it. So I found it being a little easier in the mobile home space. This one I got paid to buy this property. This was my first like really creative deal structuring. For the sake of time, I'll keep the story a little shorter on this one. You can see the mobile home is the one on the left there. It has the addition on the front, and then there's a house over there on the side. Now, believe it or not, a wood frame house scared me more than a mobile home at this time because I'd never worked on a wood frame house. I had only worked on a mobile home, so we always seem to be scared on what we like don't know. Um, so what I ended up doing is I wholesaled the house, but the seller couldn't get any cash. If she got cash, she was going to lose her government assistance. So his property that he paid cash for, that paid for her closing costs, and the money came straight to me as a seller second. So she financed at a big 3.5%, was what she charged me for the mobile home. And then because she couldn't get money, or she would lose her government assistance, the proceeds from the house came to me as a seller second. So after the rehab, paying the bird dog, getting everything ready, I actually left with about $2,000. So I got paid. Now I had to pay her back over time, but I got paid to have this property. And when you're in the building mode, that's huge, not having to come out of pocket. And of course, we're helping the seller out because it was vacant for years because she thought she couldn't sell it because then she would lose her government assistance. So it's always about like helping the seller out. And I love helping people find options they're not fully aware of. The whole giving cash, I've done it, but I much rather like really help them solve their problem. Uh, it's a lot of fun. Then I did a 1031 exchange. I sold this beautiful home in a great neighborhood, making great cash flow. And I sold it because I told you, I got honed in on what I really want. And I wanted cash flow. I wanted freedom every month, not equity building, freedom every month. And this is about when I got really serious about my goals. I didn't want to create this 90-hour business job for myself. I wanted to have freedom, and cash flow starts giving freedom. So I sold this house to buy these seven mobile homes. This is my first 1031 exchange. And we ended up having to fix up these mobile homes, of course. But my cash flow went up 857% because of selling that one to buy these seven. That was huge. And I didn't have to pay any IRS taxes. So it's not only about making money, it's also like keeping the money we make. So that was a huge year for me because of my cash flow went up. It also is the timing that I on paper became the millionaire. I became financially free, and that's whenever also started buying back my time a little bit because I was working. I had created a job for myself. Like I was working like 90 hours, even some weeks, and I knew that's not what I wanted long term. And I believe that real estate isn't about timing the market, it's about how long you're in the market. So I was in the market long enough for this house to appreciate and my pay down to go down enough to have a lot of equity to then be able to sell and get these seven mobile homes. So a lot of people try to time it. I don't believe it's so much about timing. If you're in it long enough and you're diligent enough and safe enough, you're going to make money. Well, let's check out my portfolio. I am a conservative investor. I'm not against debt, but I told you I really don't like the debt to banks. So I ran my numbers. My LTV, which is a massive equity cushion over my whole portfolio, is 44.94%. And I know that's like the max that I feel safe and good at because when I saw the calculation, I felt a little bit in my stomach. Remember, I'm conservative because of that second house. I'm never going without compromising, or sorry, I'm never going to go compromise my integrity again. So I am definitely a little more conservative. And in a little bit of a conservative time of life. When you're in your 20s and you're single, you don't mind sleeping on a couch and you lose stuff, you have a lot of time to make it up. You don't have other people relying on you to make money. And that's not where I'm at now. LTV is very important, but I believe even more important is the debt to income. So that number is at 24.67. So it's ultra strong against my portfolio. Um, and you want to know these numbers to check on yourself because when you go and talk to lenders, like friends and family, of course, banks want to know all this. This is ultra amazing for a bank. But it's also very important for your friends that might want to lend you money. Like they need to know that you have a safe business. So then they know that they're safe. Uh, Now at this time, these are the numbers because I run my stuff twice a year, from December 31st of 2025. So just a few months ago. But as I started seeing these numbers, I knew that I wanted to, we'll say, slow down, not buy as many. I started moving into that helping and educating, giving back phase. I want to be a little more passive with some of my investments, but the CDs and stock market, Wall Street, again, I day traded for years, so I understand that world. It just really wasn't where I wanted to put a lot of my money. I do have a little bit there. Crypto, I put a little bit in those buckets, but it's not where I really wanted what I wanted to live off of in the future with my investments. Um, so I decided again, I want to have some buckets of money becoming more passive. So here's some things I started doing in recent years. Co-lending. So this was a first-time mobile home buyer. Now, this guy had already owned rentals. He did fix and flips. He just had never done anything with mobile homes. And I got introduced. We became friends, and he was looking at buying this package of three mobile homes. So this is not a park, but it's three mobile homes on the same street, each individually deeded. So that exactly my world. And he brought the numbers to me because a lot of people didn't want to lend to him because a lot of people in his network didn't understand mobile homes. The banks didn't. And I started looking, I'm like, these are fantastic. Where's the catch? I was like, I'd buy one mobile home for these numbers that you're buying all three for. And so I did my research on him. I did research on the properties, of course. You need to do extensive research when you're going to be lending money out. And I didn't have all the money available for that bucket of my business. And so then I brought another friend in. I said, look, I've done all the research. Here's what I did. You know, you want to look at it too. Do you want to lend to this guy the money with me? So we lent him the money. He's given us the updates. It's been a great business transaction so far. So much though that we just did another one. You start getting the payments, you're happy, everything's going good, and then the second time around, the third, the fourth, the 10th time around, you're still doing research. I believe you should always do the research every single time, but you're not having to dive as deep into their history because you've already done that part. The history doesn't change. Um, I trusted this operator. I think that is a huge part if you are going to be in the lending space. Yes, please do your research on the asset itself and make sure it's secured, but it is extremely important to do your research on the operator who is making the decisions with the asset that your money is tied to. I believe that we have a good relationship. This guy and I've seen some of his past projects. I've seen his payment history, so that builds more rapport with me that I want to lend more money out. Now again, if you don't have money to lend out just yet, build it up. Buy some mobile homes, start getting that cash flow coming in. Don't spend it all. Start putting it in other buckets. So eventually, maybe you want to start lending. And I also, you want to know all the pieces to it. So some of those school of hard knocks, you get to learn a lot of it, but then if you are just going to jump straight to the lending side, still get educated so that you're knowing how to lend out and you understand houses and projects themselves, so you're able to do the right due diligence. Let's look at a few other ones. This is another property. Some friends that are in my mastermind, the elite level mastermind, they were buying this triplex and they needed the money for the rehab. They had the money in their reserves. They were allocating that to a different direction. So they would rather borrow it. Uh, Now, one thing I have found is really nice in the communities when you're in them is you hear about projects ahead of time. So I heard about this project. I heard about his diligence because we're helping each other talk about it, poke holes in it. And then at some point he's just like, yeah, I think I'm going to borrow the money for the rehab. And I was like, well, my IRA has some money in it. Do you just want to borrow that? So the due diligence kind of happens quietly when you're already in the group with the people. And again, my IRA didn't have all the funds. So then what it ended up doing is borrowing, or not, my IRA didn't borrow. My IRA and a friend both co-lended to make sure they had all the money they needed. And of course, we did all the paperwork. You want to make sure you do the paperwork. Um, Again, I trust the operator. That's a huge piece of it. And with these lending opportunities you're seeing, I'm now getting more diversified. Uh, I do believe in diversification. When I was in building mode, I didn't have the ability to diversify. I went straight into one thing. So diversification for me is different states, different governments, weather patterns. So I'm liking that. I'm getting a little bit more spread out in a passive manner. Here's another one that I actually purchased, exact opposite as the last one. I was going over a property that I was purchasing, and this was just last year. And some of the members of my mastermind, they said, "Well, my IRA has money sitting there doing nothing. Do you want to borrow it?" So it's a nice thing. It can go all different directions there. So I'm able to make a great ROI with that little of my money out. Their IRAs are making great money. Here's another one. It's 118 units. It's an apartment complex. It's duplexes. Multiple of us funded that one. Because you can imagine the purchase price was a lot higher on 118 units. And I trusted the operator. I knew the market and the area. We did all of our research on that. I knew his past. I knew the asset class. So now I'm getting diversification in a different asset class. I don't want to go and recreate the wheel on it. Um, so those are some things I've been doing to get some more income coming in without the money going, sorry, the effort going out. So I'm getting the benefits of the real estate without having to put all of my time and effort into it while I'm still buying mobile homes. Another huge thing I am focused on this year, I've been for a few years, but really this year is community. I am not anti-AI. I use AI. I'm not like the super user of it, but they're always open on my computer. But I believe that AI is going to drive us to need community more than ever. I believe we're going to start second guessing even more than we already do of what's on social media and the internet because we don't sure know if it's real or not. I'm real right now, but I believe in a few years you won't be able to tell if this is a real human or not speaking to you. And so I think we're gonna need community more than ever. So I have really put a lot of effort and time in elite level mastermind. Um, we meet in person. It's like a board of advisors. We also do meet once a year, or sorry, every month, once a month on Zoom, and then twice a year in person. And it's like a full immersion. It is really for people that are looking to bring their real estate, like I'm a solopreneur, to a business level, no matter where you're really at within that. And uh, it's been great on for me, for all of our members in it. And we did just start another group with that because I just really think we're going to need more community. And then I also really recently launched Inside Lifestyle REI, which is a little more online of a community. We are doing two live Zoom calls a month. We just had one today. I mean, we went longer than the call was even scheduled for because the conversation was so great and dynamic. There's accountability in both of them. I would say elite level mastermind, we're a little bit stronger with the whip. So you have to like really know that you want to be held to a really high standard and not you can't come with too many excuses. Um, and it's a support of the group of each other. Um, so that's what I've been having a lot of focus on is really building community. We're the digital side is great because we can jump on Zoom like this, and but then the elite level mastermind adds the piece of it to be able to be in person as well. So those are the communities I've been building, and I just think it's going to become more and more and more important. Uh, so yeah, I again, I didn't fire my banks just to be rich, which it did help with that a lot. It's more so that I could be on the mountain there in sunrises. I mean, I just took 3 days to go snowboarding. I mean, really, we did spend about 20 hours in the car in the last week and a half, bringing my girlfriend's son to different ski comps. Being able to have that freedom again, where I want, when I want, with who I want. And I believe that's what we really are looking for. So yeah, if I'm going to take questions here in a second, whether you're looking for conversation about safe place of how to put money to work, rooms to be in, whatever your individual next step is. Sorry, getting tongue tied. Um, Book a call. Let me find my calendar link here. With me. Don't go share this around Facebook. But I'm gonna put it in the comments here. Just jump on my calendar. I don't have a massive amount of spaces open there, but jump on my calendar. I'd love to help you out however I can on any of these topics that we talked about from my journey. And so yeah, I appreciate the time. I'm long-winded if you haven't ever heard me before. What questions do you have? Unmute, ask them. I want to help you all out in the next few minutes here. Appreciate you being here. No question? All right, Sarah. I saw you on mute.
I'll ask. Um, just a question for you. Right now, I've done probably like 5 or 6 real estate deals, and I've got, I think, quite a bit of experience. I wouldn't say I'm like super experienced, but enough. I would like to try to use like private money going forward, but I do have to pay down a bunch of course debt that I kind of racked up on my credit cards. Is that something that when you go for private money, they would look at and say you've got too much credit card debt kind of thing? Or is private money a little bit different? Like, should I wait until I have that stuff paid down more first before I do next steps? Or,
Now we can definitely talk way more detail of your specifics in on a call.
okay,
But let me give you some generic, not generic, general thoughts on the topic there. I will say I have never had a friend or family, that's who I consider to be private money, ask me for my credit card statements and how much I owe to anyone.
okay,
Um, I've never had that. That doesn't mean that someone might not ask, but I've never had someone ask me that. Um, as you can hear from my story, I am not the biggest proponent of having a huge amount of debt. I'm not quite Dave Ramsey, but I'm, on the scale, I'm a little bit more Dave Ramsey than Grant Cardone. Um, if those were the two extremes, one of my Dave Garcia, who co-runs Elite Level Mastermind with me, he is a very big proponent of buying an asset that pays off something. So then later you still have payments coming in when, say, the credit
makes
card
sense.
is. He's a huge fan of that. That's how he bought his car, and he bought a BMW, and he's like, well, I could buy it, or I could go buy a rental house that's going to pay the payments on it, and then once the car was free and clear, he still had the payments coming in. So that would be some general topics there. But yeah, let's definitely jump on a call and talk a little more specific. And that's also going to depend. Last thing I want to say on that, on you. If debt is such a burden and those credit cards are not allowing you to sleep well at night, then I'm probably going to say you should pay those off because now you're not
Right.
going to make the right decisions. But if you
Yep.
can handle those and know that you're going to get to pay them off as soon as you buy this, and it's not going to stress you out all the time, then it could be a decision to make. So you can see it is very individualized.
Okay. I'll definitely book a call because I definitely feel like you said, it's more, there's other details
Yeah.
behind it, I guess, that,
There's always other details, which is again why I mean I'm such a big fan of community because I mean even we're gonna jump on a call for a bit and we're gonna have some time, but when you're in the same community over and over and over again, you really get to know each other. And then you don't have to like ask so many questions like, hey, well, 6 months ago, Sarah, you said this is going against that. Did you change your mind?
right.
Or, so that it's good to have those people in your life.
Okay.
Yeah, let's definitely talk more on a call.
Okay. Thank you.
And thanks for being the first one to speak up. It always takes that first person to break the ice.
No problem.
Rich, I see you're
Yeah,
unmuted. Yeah.
I would have been first, but I walked away and then didn't realize I was listening on my headset and was away from the computer. Otherwise, I'd have been first. So thank you,
No,
Sarah, for stepping up.
Rich, you were being a gentleman and letting Sarah go first,
That's
right?
it. Yes, you know me all too well. So I three women run my life right now. So why would I step on another one? So uh, so anyway, I have a quick question and maybe I think it's more me. I have a real hard time asking friends and family about money and lending versus a stranger. Am I the only one?
No, man. We have done some damage over the last few generations on the topic of money.
Yeah,
We really have. We made it into this bad topic, and I've done a lot of work to overcome the exact same thing you're talking about. My thoughts today is why would I want to pay Bank of America or some person I don't know than my friend? I
yeah,
want my
right.
friend to make money. I want to help my friend.
Yeah,
What it's silly the way that at least I was taught and kind of brought up, like this money is a hard topic and everything.
yeah,
Really maybe this will help my reframing. I'm not working to talk my friends into giving me money.
Right.
I have an opportunity to help my friend make more money than their savings account. I want to
Right.
save them from losing money to inflation. And if
Okay.
they are interested, cool. If they're not, cool. I mean, everyone has different investment strategy and comfort levels.
Yeah.
Um, so that's really helped me, but that is definitely a challenge. I we can talk more on why I think that, but I really think we've done some
No,
damage over some
yeah.
generations to us.
Well, I appreciate it. At least I know I'm not unique in that. I didn't think
Oh,
I
you're not.
was, but
You're definitely not. I've been in a lot of rooms. You're not.
well, thank you.
Of
Appreciate
course, man.
today. I appreciate you doing this for us. Thank
Yeah.
you.
Yeah. Thank you, Rich. All right, Jeff.
Yeah, so when the high appreciating houses start leveling off and maybe dropping, and the, we'll say, B class tenants, you're kind of fighting for those. So maybe prices for rents are going down. Do you find that your mobile homes just pick up a little bit more quality tenants in which you can keep your rents stable, or maybe even better than the more stable than the B class?
Yeah. Well, first I want to address, B class, A class, C class. I am personally, I wouldn't say any of my properties are A class.
Mhm.
But I have properties that are B class. That's such an opinionated buckets that we put stuff in. Excuse me. I do have some properties that would probably be in the C class. I don't have anything below that. I'm not a good manager of it. I'm not good at it. I wholesale those if those come up. They're not for me, and it's a personality thing. I am not a good manager of those. I buy where people want to live, not have to live. That's a big piece for me. So let's answer your question. Over the last few years, I have seen demands pick up on the lower affordable housing space. Um, I don't fix and flip, but I do stay in touch with that, and that has picked up. Both of them are going on that supply demand piece. When it's going on the fix and flip, we know that people really buy payments, is what they're buying
Mhm.
when they're buying a property. Well, when rates started jacking up, people couldn't buy the house that they want anymore, but they still wanted some privacy. They wanted to own something. They wanted half acre, 2 acres. Well, now maybe they didn't like dream of living in a mobile home, but they want those pieces are more important than what the structure is made out of. And if you can fix up the mobile home to be really beautiful and nice, like my friend Mark, that's why I have him teach the fix and flip side when I do courses, is because you can't tell it's a mobile home. And
Mhm.
I mean, his demand has skyrocketed when rates started going up, and he's selling mobile homes 300, $400,000
Mhm.
that people think is crazy, but it's because of the payments.
Okay.
So the rent side is very similar. I believe that the lower price points are going to have even more demand. We've already picked up some. I did mention earlier that I have properties that are above the affordable housing rate, and I watched those come down fast. Like I had my own comp, very good. I had just rented not too long before this. We bought a property in between the time of going under contract and finishing the project. The rents had dropped like $250 from my own comp.
Mhm.
And that was fast. I mean, our markets don't usually shift that quick. Luckily, I had ran my numbers at $300 lower because I didn't trust that market. So I was losing potential money instead. But that was
Mhm.
the above the affordable housing. The affordable housing numbers, I've seen the demand stay pretty strong.
All right. Thanks.
Yeah, man. Thanks for the question. Anyone else have a question? Or I don't want to take up your whole evening. Oh, I think I heard someone.
I have a question. It's
Oh,
Jean.
yeah, yeah, Jeannie, go ahead. I see the green bubble moved over to you now.
Yeah. I've been wanting to give up the banks. You and I had a little discussion about that by messenger. But I don't know why I've just never been able to break into that. What if I wanted to start that right now? And I do have experience in rehabbing mobile homes, renting them out, rehabbing stick homes, and I've been in the business for quite a while. Um, but not at the scale like you are. And there's but what's the first step I need to do to just start getting this private money, let's say? And I would have a big problem with asking my family and friends as well. And besides, I don't even know anyone. My friends and family don't have money to lend that I know of. You know what I mean? So
Okay.
how do you start? How would I start?
Man, what a great question. If especially if this is our last question, this would be a fantastic one. How do we start? And definitely let's jump on a call to talk more details on this. Um,
I've
you know,
already.
you're already on my calendar. I love it. Here let me tell my first borrowing from a human being story, and then I'll give us some other actionable items. So it was, and I don't think I mentioned this earlier when I told my story. It was when I was in that mastermind room and I was looking to borrow some money because I just spent literally all my cash. I spent it all on the mobile home and then I got another fantastic deal. Well, someone else in the room was actually looking to start lending money. It was such an awesome coincidence, whatever you want to call it, that he was looking to start lending and he had about how much I needed to borrow. Now, a piece of that is we were in the room together. We knew each other's goals. We really talked through it. So I had built some of that rapport with him because he was nervous lending his first time. And I was also nervous borrowing my first time. And so it was the conversation back and forth that we knew where each other were at to be able to have that conversation. Um, so I found my first private money in a community. While you were talking, you did kind of correct yourself that you actually don't know what type of money your friends have. And I'm glad you did because I was going to ask you if I could call you out on that. Um, because I have people that lend me money that you would never think. They're just everyday people, quote unquote. You don't know who has money. One of my friends, he borrows all his money mostly from his barbershop. He's that old school. He goes to the barbershop and talks and the people there are who lend him money. And we're talking like in the 2% range. I asked him where his barbershop was so I can start going. Um, but so how do you start telling people what you do? Tell everyone what you do. Um, Definitely do some research on the SEC laws on how you can tell people. If you're doing the um, getting syndications, it's different and you have to do the right paperwork and the right way to market for it. But I talk to people. You got to get that first one because once you get that first one, now you can tell that story
Hmm.
of
Right.
how, I love being able to make payments to my friend Rich. He loves taking that payment every month so he doesn't have to work. And I have a story to tell. So that first one, going back to that guy, I paid him 17.5% is what
Wow.
he ended up making. Now I was able to make money. He funded the whole deal and I was able to make money. And see how you just said, wow, I just got everyone's attention because I said I paid 17.5%. I have a great story to tell. I don't definitely be safe with your numbers, but you got to get that first one. I almost don't be so concerned on the rate. Get that first one so you know and feel it's real. And so you have that story to tell. Besides that, you have to start telling stories of maybe your friends. Borrow some of my stories and say, my friend has been doing this. I'm looking to do the same thing on my next property I buy. So you can borrow stories from other people. Tell people about your deals. So a lot of it's telling people, and the right people are going to approach you and then want to lend you money.
Hmm.
And don't just tell all the perfect parts of the business, because that always puts a little spidey senses up in the back of our hairs, like this person's so perfect. Um, so those are some quick thoughts there. Definitely, we can dive into some more maybe strategic, but if you are going to publicly post stuff, be very cautious of the SEC laws. Don't just copy what someone else is posting because I see a lot of people breaking the laws of how they're posting on social media. You can when I have these conversations, assuming I know the person, um, then I just add those people to my list. And then whenever I have an opportunity of some sort, I send it to them and maybe we have more conversations. Maybe it's not the right timing. And then if I don't know the person, I just met them, let's say at a RIA or an event, and they get excited. I say, well, let's chat a few more times. So then we chat a few more times about what it would look like. Maybe I even send them a past deal because I don't want to have them lend me money the first time we met, the second time we met. I want to have multiple conversations for one to make sure we're together, like we get along, we know, like, and trust each other. And then the other one is because I believe it helps with the SEC laws. So great question.
I think one of my issues is that I have this mindset that isn't healthy. I'm afraid I don't want to bring anyone down with me in case.
Mm. So I do want to respect everyone's time and end here in a second. But that is fantastic. I struggle with that huge. Honestly, the best thing I did was to start borrowing money from friends because I was so concerned with that, letting anyone down. I was actually managing my properties better that I had debt from friends. And one of
Mhm.
my coaches said, well, why don't you just manage your entire portfolio that way? It was like, well, duh. But I hadn't thought of it. And so I seriously, it's weird. It sounds like we're similar there. I almost care about your money more than my own.
Mhm.
Um, so that's been really good for my business. It made me hold it to a higher standard. And so it has helped me. It was scary at first.
Yeah.
That's why you're double checking, triple checking your numbers. You're asking your community and your group, hey, check this for me. What am I missing? And you're going through those so because you don't want to let your friends down. And you're especially when you know it's their retirement and they're 5 years away from retirement. They
Oh
don't have
God.
time to make it up. Like, yeah. But now
Right.
I get to be part of that they're going to have a better retirement because they're making more than a CD in a savings account. So
Mhm.
it's the mindset, like you said. We got to flip it around.
Yeah. Okay.
Um,
Thanks.
yeah, you're welcome. Great questions.
Talk-
Well, yeah. Again, I don't want to keep everyone all night. I'm about to actually go to a movie with my girlfriend and her son. So yeah, I thank you all for being here. If you want to talk about anything, if you haven't already, jump on my calendar. It can be again about the lending money topics, the community, mobile homes, landlording, whatever part of my journey. I'd love to be able to help you out. And I appreciate all of y'all being here.
Thanks,
Right.
Adrian. It was great. Thank you for your
You're
time.
welcome.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you all for being here. Uh, Where's the end button? They keep moving everything around. There we go.